What is up, my friends? We are back with a reaction to last night's victory in the League Cup against West Ham. We're going to look ahead to the game against Wolves and we're going to chat some transfer and contract extensions, which means, as you can see, I am joined by my friend, Mr. David Lynch. David, how are we?
Yeah, good. The wins keep coming, don't they? So yeah, it's always positive to cover those, and another really good one last night. So yeah, in a good mood today.
It's easy to get used to this winning feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just kind of, I don't know, I was going to say more than expected, but you always hope for the best, don't you, when you get a new manager in, but you always think there's going to be teething problems, and maybe we saw a few of those against Nottingham Forest, and maybe there are, of course, more to come when the fixture list gets a little bit more tricky, but yeah, it's really, really positive at the moment, really, really good, and yeah, you just hope it can continue this way.
Absolutely. And I wanted to kind of work from the end and work back towards the start of last night because the thing I wanted to kick off our chat today with David is the selection headaches that Arne Slot is starting to have in a good way. You look to the left hand side of our attack as an example. Cody Gakpo was given an opportunity last night and he took that opportunity, grabbed himself a brace. Lucho's been in goal scoring form. These are first world problems, but very good problems for Arne Slot to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of wonder, don't you? Already, you're thinking, why did we not see a little bit more of Gakpo in that left wing position? Because he really does look like, he looks more natural there. He seems to be enjoying it a lot more, and every time he's come in this season, he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, I think in any other team in the Premier League at the moment, he would probably be a starting left winger. His only problem is he's got Luis Diaz up against him, who is probably in the form of his life at the moment. So it really is good problems to have, and to have Gakpo come in. And I thought even before his goals, he obviously just taxed them on at the end, but I just thought his overall performance was absolutely fantastic. And just stretching West Ham both ways, and really causing problems with his dribbling. And when he gets a shot off, it's powerful. It's going to test the goalkeeper. So yeah, he's just in brilliant form, and he's probably unfortunate he's not going to keep his place off the back of that. But there are so many games that the injuries pop up, don't they? And I'm sure he's going to play an awful lot of games this season. And if he does it in this form, then that's going to be a real treat for Liverpool fans.
Absolutely is. And it's not just on the left. I mean, I was starting to already think of Darwin Núñez maybe re-establishing himself through the centre as the number 9. And then we see Diogo come in last night and grab himself a brace as well. And two very different but very well taken goals from him.
Yeah, I agree in terms of that battle between those two. It's interesting because the kind of the way I saw it coming into this game actually was, when I did my team selection, I thought, well, Núñez has played well there. I think Arne Slot likes to stick with the man who's playing well. He's come in and done the job. He's got a goal, and his overall game against Bournemouth was really good. So I felt that he was going to get a rest in this one. Jota was going to come back in, and then we were going to see Núñez again at the weekend. But obviously, with starting both, what the manager's done there is he's given himself I think the main driver behind that was he wanted to rest all three midfielders. He didn't want to put anyone in, so he's going to throw an extra forward in. But what it also gave the manager a chance to do was say, okay, whoever plays well here, they get the shirt for the weekend. Battle it out amongst yourselves who plays the best, and kind of put that little bit of nice pressure on them. And obviously Jota probably responded the best, not just the two goals, but I thought he just generally had a better game than Núñez, if I'm honest. And again, you've got that nice problem there now of two strikers who are really in form and looking dangerous, and that is just again, if one of them drops off, stops scoring goals, you've got a perfect backup there ready to come in, and they keep pressure on each other, and that should keep the goals coming. So really, really good news for the manager there in terms of what he does around his selections.
Looking at that team selection last night, actually, it left a lot of us scratching our heads initially, trying to figure out were we going to see a change the system. You had two, it looked like deeper lying players there with Turo Endo and Curtis Jones, who was probably going to be asked to come deeper. And then, as you mentioned, four forwards ahead of them. I thought it took us a while to get used to that last night in the slight change. You were at the game, I believe. I was interested to see what your thoughts are on how we initially lined up with Turo and Curtis.
Yeah, it did look a little bit cagey because they'd sort of gone to that 4-4-2. It did take a little bit of working out. And obviously, when you make 9 changes as well, you're going to lose a little bit of rhythm there, aren't you? So I think that was definitely the case in the start of the game. And that's why it kind of took Liverpool a little while to get going. But even when you're changing your formations, the manager's principles are the same. And so, once you get that rhythm going and everyone gets a touch of the ball and they could start playing, you could see all the good things about Arne Slot teams and the start he's made at Liverpool, even in this different formation. And then they really got going there. And I like the way it worked, really. I think, in a home game there, you can put 4 forwards on the pitch. A lot of the time with Liverpool in the pressing structure so far this season have actually defended in a 4-4-2 or maybe a 4-2-4 at times and really pushed the 4 forwards up. So, and that's even when they're playing more of a 4-2-3-1, they've defended in a 4-2-4. So that element of it was quite natural, but it was just trying to find those combinations in terms of the attacking play, particularly with, the likes of Chiesa coming in and making his first start, and a few players who hadn't played that frequently this season. So I think that added to an element of it being disjointed, but they just started to get rhythm as the game went on and then really ramped it up and obviously finished incredibly strongly and absolutely deserved to win it in the end.
Ironic 4-1 victory, or 5-1, victory again, same as last season when we took them on in the League Cup. When you make this many changes, as you've said, you expect the team to be a little bit disjointed. In defence in particular last night, I thought we looked a little bit shaky at times. You had 4 defenders there, probably aren't going to play together again this season. What was your thoughts on the defensive side of it? I mean, I don't want to say that it would have done anybody any harm because I think that would be very unfair, but certainly Gomez and Kwanzaa didn't look at the level we know they're capable of last night at times.
Yeah, I think it's harder for defenders to come in. I think when you throw 4 attackers on at the pitch who've not played as a 4 before, you still, the requisite level of quality and the fact that they're not simply trying to disrupt the game or they're not being run at or they don't have to be organised together. They can just kind of cause chaos and pop up in little pockets, use their individual quality. It's easier for forwards. Whereas I think defenders, like I say, they have to be organised, they have to be working together as a unit. And when you've not played together all season or possibly ever, that back 4, then it's really going to be difficult for you. And to be honest, I thought it wasn't great at times. There was moments where West Ham caused problems and disorganised Liverpool a little bit. But you look at sort of the expected goals numbers, for example, I think West Ham are about 0.5, something like that. They didn't actually create a lot. I think they have around 12 shots, but they're not shots of immense quality. And I think that's testament really to some of the last-ditch defending that Liverpool were doing. Some of the moments they were just, being intelligent and getting themselves in front and reducing the angle and making it more difficult for West Ham. So it wasn't perfectly organised, and I think a Liverpool defence can be better even with those 4 players in it. But I think you've got to sort of give them a little bit of a break on the basis of rhythm and the fact it's harder as defenders. And I still thought in the end, you look through West Ham's chances and they have a couple of decent ones, but nothing absolutely hugely alarming that they absolutely should have scored that one or anything like that. And obviously the only goal that West Ham do get, Liverpool kick it into the net for them anyway. So I thought they all, they weren't perfect performances, but I all thought they did well when you throw those caveats in.
I thought Kelleher had another good solid game, made the saves that he needed to. One player I wanted to just speak about for a moment was Wataru Endo, because I think he's probably been incredibly unlucky that we've got a new manager who's come in, wants the number 6 position to be played a little bit differently than he would have played under Jurgen. I mean, coming in from Stuttgart to Liverpool with Jurgen, he probably had to learn to play 10 or 15 yards higher up the pitch, whereas now the role's been played in a completely different way by Ryan Gravenberch. What do you think Wataru's opportunities are going to be going forward this season with Ireland? And did you see anything last night that you thought would have given the manager some food for thought, excuse me?
It's a strange one, really, because I thought he played well last night, and yet I still think we saw exactly why we're probably not going to see an awful lot of him this season. I thought, he's combative. He got some great challenges in there to break up play. Some big headers actually from defending set plays and crosses into the box. Always seem to be in the right place at the right time defensively. But I just think when you see him on the ball, the kind of gap there between him and McAllister or Gravenberch in terms of either dribbling out of a tight space or being able to use the ball in those situations, you could really see that. I think particularly in the first half, Liverpool had quite a few problems in the build-up and being able to take the ball through from the centre halves up to the top end of the pitch. And that's not been, very rarely has that been an issue for Liverpool so far this season. And I think, Endo's presence was part of that. I think he just is more on that defensive side, isn't he? And doesn't quite have that quality level to fizz the balls through the line. So I think Slot will have been pleased with him in that, effort was there, defensive work, as I say, top notch. And I really do think he had a good game. But in terms of being able to progress the ball, I think you saw his real weakness there. And that for me is why this manager doesn't particularly fancy him, but also why I think he's going to struggle for opportunities over the remainder of this season. Even after a good game there, I think he's probably going to be the next time we see him is, okay, maybe the odd sub appearance, but probably in that next League Cup game in terms of his next start.
And on that next League Cup game, actually, it is Brighton away at the Amex. A difficult enough draw, but I want to get your thoughts on that. But I also want to get your thoughts on, I guess, the elephant in the room from the League Cup so far, which is no VAR. Did you prefer the game without VAR last night? Did you enjoy it? Or do you still think that it's where it should be in the Premier League?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it, to be honest. I mean, especially when Gakpo goes through, and I think he's slightly offside in that moment in the build-up to one of the goals. So, but, it is nice to just see a goal go in and know that that's that. I mean, you just miss it, don't you? I think you really realise that when you're in the League Cup and you see these moments and that happens. Obviously, the chances of you getting an absolute stinker against you are there, and that is probably going to happen to someone. It might happen to Liverpool this season in the League Cup, and they might go out in the next round because of that. But I still found it really, really refreshing and just a nice reminder of what we used to have when we were able to celebrate goals immediately and know that they would stand. I do kind of miss that, but I also understand why it has to be different now, and people get very frustrated if the wrong decision gets made. So yeah, it's unfortunate, really.
It is nice, is that, as you said, ball goes in the net, quick glance over to the linesman to see if there's a flag, and that's the end of it. There's nothing else to be concerned about. Now, we did touch on the fact we're away at the Amex next in the next round. Difficult game. I mean, they've had a good start under the new manager as well, but I guess it is the last 16 of the League Cup, and you expect the stronger teams to start to come into the draw.
Yeah, but also it would be nice if Liverpool ever got a good draw in cup competitions. I mean, if they had Premier League draws basically always forever in
that, sorry for cutting across you. On that, actually, I remember Arna saying it's unusual to get a club like West Ham this early in the competition. I was like, no, it isn't, Arna, not for us, mate.
Yeah, welcome to Liverpool. Absolutely. It's an incredible again to get Brighton. So, and to get them away is a bit of a pain in the backside, you have to say, because obviously it's quite a lot of travel involved. I mean, he was talking to Paul Gorst at Liverpool Echo, and who will have to go to that game, and he seemed particularly devastated about it. So it's not great, and I think Liverpool will be a little bit disappointed they've got that lengthy travel plus another really, really tough tie. But also you would expect probably going to make a load of changes again. So if you are wanting to keep those fringe players in rhythm, giving them a really good test like that can always be helpful. So you just got to take the positives, and at the end of the day, the League Cup is one of those that if Liverpool did go out in the next round and they did suffer a defeat at Brighton, you've got to say, in terms of the priorities of where that is this season, it's not, Liverpool don't have to win this every season. They've won it a couple of times recently. If it doesn't quite work out at Brighton with a changed team, it's not an absolute disaster. I think that's something we've got to kind of get our heads around, really, that can happen, and that happens sometimes, basically. So it's not an ideal draw, I would call it, but also, Liverpool's priority for me this season has to be Premier League and Champions League.
Well, we can't have United winning it because they're already the second most successful team after Manchester City over the last few years, according to Eric Ten Hag. I had to get a little dig in there. So there's a couple of questions that the viewers have been asking me about last night that I wanted to ask your good self. And one of them, actually both of them, are about younger players. So Trey Leone wasn't with the 21s. I didn't play with the 21s the night before. Bit of a surprise not to see him included. And a lot of people are asking me when maybe we can expect to see Rio start to graduate towards the first team. Personally, I believe it's not going to be this season, but I wanted to get your thoughts on both of those.
Yeah, so with Trey, it was just a simple case. I was told that just a selection decision, nothing more to it than that. Arne Slot looked at his squad, looked at who he had available, looked at what he felt he might need in this game. And Trey Leone, as talented as he is, he would have been taking the place of someone like Szoboszlai on the bench, where, if he was fit enough to be in and around the squad, and you could maybe give him a couple of minutes at the end if you needed to. Slot's preference there was to go with Szoboszlai. And I think that actually, just to dwell on that a little bit, I think that was interesting actually that he did that, because I think it kind of shows you, that he'll keep his cards close to his chest in his press conferences, didn't really give anything away on that, and he made it sound like he was definitely going to be in the squad. So he's absolutely happy to kind of lie to us or not be economical with the truth in certain situations, which is interesting. But also, I think it shows you there's a kind of ruthlessness there in terms of, look, I want to put the squad out that is the best chance of getting me a result. And Trey, I know that's disappointing to you, but you're not in it. And that's, for a 17-year-old kid, it has to get used to those situations, that they will happen. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting selection decision that, and he obviously went with the strongest lineup, strongest squad he could possibly go with. So that was an interesting one. But on Rio, I would agree. I wouldn't expect to see him this season. I think I would like some of the hype around him to calm down a little bit as well. Actually, I think there's been too much of a spotlight on him at the moment. I mean, he's only just 16, isn't he? He's a really, really young kid. The age where you maybe start getting in and around the first team and having a chance is maybe Naoni's age, where he's 17. He's playing in that attacking position. He's still quite small. So, there's a chance. And I think that was something to do with the decision around Naoni as well, is that West Ham are a physical team. It's difficult to make that step up. So, for Rio, like I say, I wouldn't be holding my breath that we'd see any sign of him next season. Maybe this season, but maybe next season, maybe if he takes that little physical jump. But he's still got to settle in. He's still got to reach the level, and there are by no means any guarantees that he does that, as talented as he is. So, I think we're a long way from that. And like I say, probably don't want to talk about him too much, because I think there's already a little bit of pressure developing on him, and too many of those clips doing the rounds on social media. You've just got to maybe let him grow a little bit and let him kind of make mistakes in the lower age groups at the moment.
I think that makes every bit of sense in the world, to be honest with you. Put him in when he's ready, and not because we're desperate or we want to force the issue. I totally agree with you on that one. Both of those gents are obviously the future Liverpool Football Club, but in another sense, I've been asked quite a bit, David, and we spoke about this off air for a moment, about a potential sale of Liverpool Football Club. Obviously, at the moment, we know the Fenway Sports Group are in negotiations with the Saudi Investment Fund for golf. We know that there's a whole PGA Live Golf thing that they're trying to work out. I think Liverpool are opening an academy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well, if I'm not mistaken. But have you heard anything to a potential sale? Because it's something that I've been asked time and time again. I've been honest and said, personally, I've not seen, read or heard anything of any substance, but I wanted to put it to you to see what you think.
Yeah, beyond a kind of a single text message that I didn't really put too much kind of stake in, to be honest. And I wonder, sometimes these rumours do the rounds and then they end up coming my way, and I've kind of got to verify whether there's any truth in it. I didn't really chase that one, if I'm honest, because I don't at the moment believe that there's anything going on there. I'd just be really, really surprised at the moment, because Liverpool went through that very public process of sounding out potential buyers, and really they made it publicly known that the club would be up for sale at that point. I know that's been vehemently denied in the months since, and suggestions are that, oh no, actually it was never for sale. I don't buy that for a single second. I think when all those rumours were going around and the reporting came out from David Ornstein, I think Liverpool very much were exploring the possibility of a sale, and then instead went for minority investment. So, the idea that they would so soon go back into that process and destabilise things, which is what, by the way, I believe the last time I think it did destabilise things a little bit. I think, kind of the club was kind of caught up in that for a little moment. So, yeah, I don't really buy that at the moment, to be honest, and I don't really expect anything to develop on that front. I think FSG are in this for a little bit longer yet.
Speaking of things that have been going a little bit longer and will go a little bit longer, any word on the contract negotiations? Because obviously that's what we're all waiting for right now, particularly with Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I know this must be a question that you are fed up of answering. I get it, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you.
No, I guess Arne Slot's probably sick of us asking him about it as well, but no developments as far as I'm aware. I mean, to be fair, that doesn't concern me. Trent said it, and I think he said it best. They don't really want these things to be played out in public if possible. I think the players have all had the say now on the contract situations. We know where they stand. They're probably trying to put a little bit of pressure on Liverpool to get things going, but when these things get sorted, they get sorted fairly quickly a lot of the time, and things can move quick. Particularly with Trent's, where I think it's going to be easy for Liverpool to know that they want to get that done. Players key in his side as well. That one's going to be, I think, a relatively straightforward one to do, or you would like to think so. So it will move fast, and then we'll hear of it out of the blue. It will come from certain sources, and then it'll be out there and basically effectively done. So not too panicked at the moment, and I think you just got to hang in there for any real news. But there is genuinely no kind of progress I've heard about at the moment.
And before we finish up, just a couple more for you. A couple of potential incomings. We've seen Mark Gay's name mentioned yet again in the media after him staying at Crystal Palace this summer. Obviously, Newcastle had made some bids but weren't able to prize him away. By the way, on that, I always do enjoy listening to Steve Parish when he speaks about Crystal Palace, his players and football in general. I think he's thoroughly enjoyable to listen to. And another one for you, David, is Florian Wirtz, who's obviously going to be in demand if he is going to be sold by Leverkusen. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Liverpool being linked with him as well.
Yeah, so Gay, I never really got any encouragement on that one over the summer. Nobody at Liverpool suggested to me he was kind of a target, and I wonder whether, you know, partly that will have been down to the price tag was ridiculous really for what Liverpool kind of needed that last summer, which was, you know, they would look at maybe a fourth choice centre half if Joe Gomez was to go. You don't really need to be spending 70 million on that, and I'm sure for Mark Gay as well, he'd want his next club to be somewhere where he's starting regularly, and at the moment, again, would Liverpool be that with Konate playing as he is, Van Dijk as he is, Quansah has barely touched the pitch this season, but is a mega talent, isn't he? So, you know, and again, profile-wise with him, is he aerially dominant in comparison to the centre-halves that Liverpool generally like to sign? I would say probably not. So quite a few red flags around that one for me that suggest, and like I said, they were very cool on him in the summer. That suggests there's not really a lot in that. So at the moment, I would say that one would surprise me. And Florian Wirtz, absolutely no doubt Liverpool are watching him. You know, they watch every player of that sort of profile and talent. But again, the position he plays, is there a desperate need for Liverpool there? And I say desperate need in the sense that, you know, you look at it, is that an area that they would need to spend the sort of money that it will take to get Wirtz out of Bayer Leverkusen? And again, I'm kind of sceptical about that one as well. I just think, I'm sure they've kept an eye on him for a long time, and he's a huge talent, isn't he? But, you know, making that leap to go in and sign him, when you think of some of the clubs that will be involved, the money that will be involved, I'd just be really, really surprised. I just don't think it's a need. And for, you know, Liverpool, I think they've got other areas which will become priorities coming into January and next summer, and it wouldn't be the position that Florian Wirtz plays.
And actually, while we're speaking about that, anything on Zubimendi, who again has been the subject of much speculation, I think from yourself, Fabrizio Romano, many other journalists, that Liverpool would be willing if he showed an indication. But I'm not seeing any real reporting that he has changed his mind yet, despite Sociedad's poor start to the campaign.
That's it. Those conversations have got to happen between him and Sociedad. But I still keep saying he hasn't signed that contract, so keep an eye on that one. That's interesting. I thought that was going to be a condition of him staying there, is that he would get a pay bump, and that hasn't happened. And also beyond that pay bump, it was also moving what that release clause was worth as well. So clearly that hasn't happened yet. Sociedad have had a poor start, which means, you know, are they going to be in contention for much come the end of the season? It's already looking, you know, that they might not be. You know, come January, you could have a decisive moment there in terms of knowing where Sociedad's season is heading. So, you know, if that's the case, like I say, nobody from Liverpool's told me that bridges have been burnt or that is over yet. So, you know, as long as that's the case, then you'd like to think that there's some slim possibility, but so much depends on the player and whether he would turn to Sociedad and say, look, I actually do want to go this time. This is the time for me to make the move. And we haven't had any indication from Spain that that's the case yet.
Obviously, Rodri out for Man City, putting 2 and 2 together. A lot of people are starting to get concerned on that front. I would look at it, though, and say very different profile of player to what Manchester City would be bringing in if they were looking for Zubimendi.
Yeah, and I also think people are getting themselves in a little bit of a tiz about this in terms of, you know, I know City spend money, generally speaking, and they do spend big on the squad, but the idea that they buy someone to kind of fill in for Rodri until he comes back, I don't think that they are that kind of crazy in the spending these days, to be honest. And with Zubimendi as well, again, you know, you have to reiterate that the problem wasn't, oh, Liverpool aren't giving me enough money, or I don't want to join Liverpool, it's not attractive, or, you know, I'll just wait for Manchester City. It wasn't anything like that. He got convinced to stay and got kind of, well, there's a little bit of pressure put on him to stay at Real Sociedad. So I don't think it's the case that maybe City would come in for him and suddenly run for the big wage you would get there, or even that there's any City interest. We don't have that confirmed at all. So I think it's just, like you say, people putting 2 and 2 together and kind of some of the pessimism around it I find kind of staggering, really. It's, there's nothing really in that at the moment. So until we hear anything otherwise, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over the possibility of him turning up at City.
Good to hear. And David, just before we let you go, anything you've got working on that you'd like to let people know about? Anything on Substack or anything on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, just always pushing people to Substack if you can. If you can head over there and subscribe. Obviously, kind of reliant on that at the moment in terms of need to push those subscriber numbers always. So it's really helpful if people can check that out. We really appreciate it.
We always try to get people across as well. I enjoy your work. I'm sure our audience do as well. And David, we will be catching up, I believe, after the league game against Wolves. So we'll probably be chatting on Monday. Thank you for your time as always, my friend. And thank you to you guys for watching and listening as well. We'll be back soon. Don't forget, drop a like if you're on YouTube. And thank you very much for your time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.